Congratulations. We are presenting to you Economic Innovation Award, Kyasui Matsui, in recognition of achieving success by taking the best of both worlds, Japan and the US. Congratulations.
I want to introduce Richie. We have to do a lot of pomp and circumstance. Next up, we're going to do this thing called the fireside chat we're talking about here. Oh, we're going to accept the speech? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That's why she works with important people, and I point to numbers on a map. Come on over here. Go ahead. Oh, let me do my job. That's what I do at work.
Thank you very, very, very much. Honorable Consul General Yamada-san, Keizai Silicon Valley Board, and members, and all of you tonight, thank you so much for being here. I feel deeply, deeply humbled. When Chimi contacted me initially about this Shinnenkai, how many months ago? Quite a while ago, I looked at my calendar and I said, Chimi, I'd really like to go, but I just don't know if I can fit it into my work schedule because I have a European trip the week before and I'm in Hong Kong next week. And many of you know Chimi, she's quite persistent, and that persistence worked. And I'm very glad that I'm able to join you here tonight. I just landed last night, so I'm a bit jet-lagged, but the special bonus is to spend time with my family. This award basically goes to my mother. My mother is the real queen of our household, Mary, who's sitting in the front. She is not only an amazing mother of 4, but she is also an ura-senkei, tea ceremony sensei in Pebble Beach. And so anything related to tea, she is your master. And my sister, Teresa, who was mentioned before, and her fiancé, Walter. So I'm really lucky that I get to spend time here. Some of you may or may not know, this is feel like coming home because my mother actually gave birth to me down the road. I was born in El Camino Hospital in Mountain View. And I've been living in Japan, in Tokyo now for almost 30 years. So when people ask me where am I from, where do I feel as home, I call myself a reverse import, gyakunyunyu. And now my children, 2 children are going to school in Southern California, so they're reverse import. So just briefly about this term that Mike mentioned. By the way, my job is not womenomics. People think that's all I do, but that has suddenly become a bit of a topic of interest these days. But let me give you a little bit of background as to how I came up with this rather bizarre topic. So, just by way of background, I began my career in Japanese finance in 1990, which, as many of you may know, was the absolute peak of Japan's asset bubble. Does anybody in this room know what the level of the Nikkei 225 average was? Oh, in the back. 38,000. Ping pong, give this guy a bottle of champagne. Today, the Nikkei level is less than half that, 17,500. So my career, 25 years in Japanese finance, covering the stock market, has been a pretty rough ride. So as an equity strategist, my job is to give investment advice about investing in Japan. And you can imagine as the market was going da-dum, da-dum, da-dum for many years, I have to have conversations with investors who are thinking about investing in Japan. Well, remember in the 90s, you had a collapsing stock market, you had a shrinking economy, you had a piling bad debt crisis, demographics were terrible, and the fiscal deficit was ballooning. So of course the question that my clients were asking me was the obvious one, which is, what's the point? Why should we be investing at all in this country called Japan? Because there is no growth. Where's the growth going to come from? So after hundreds of these meetings, I myself found myself becoming really depressed every single meeting. And I was thinking to myself one day, I was very pregnant with my second child, and it just dawned on me that maybe there is a different scenario that we might be able to paint for Japan. And so it dawned on me one day, I was looking around and seeing a lot of my Japanese female friends had left the workforce once they started having children. In the past, 60% of Japanese women quit working after child number 1. And as an American who grew up here, had moved to Japan, I thought to myself, what's the Japanese word? Mottainai. And so I just started to think, well, let me do some numbers. Now, at that time in the 1990s, Japan's female participation rate in the workforce was about 55%, one of the lowest in the developed world, okay? And I just said, let's pretend. Let's pretend if the women rate, 55%, could match that, equal that, of the Japanese men, which, by the way, is the top or second highest in the developed world. Right, Japanese men, they all work like 24/7, right? And I calculated if you could match that, which I know is a big ask, but if you could match that, women work as much as men, or as many women work as men do in Japan, you could boost Japan's GDP by a whopping 13%. That is not small, okay? Now I realize that's much easier said than done, and I wrote my first report in 1999. I was so excited, I thought this was a really cool thesis, and guess what? I got no response from my Japanese clients. Maybe not surprised because 99% of my Japanese clients are male. So fast forward to 2013, Prime Minister Abe, out of the blue, decides that womenomics will be a pillar of the nation's growth strategy. I was shocked. I and many of my friends said, this must be a joke. It sounds really awesome, but really, seriously, this is going to take hundreds of years to change. Let me tell you though, tonight, last November, Japan's female labor participation rate used to be 55%, hit 65%. You know what it is here in the United States? 63. Whoa! So we have now more women working in Japan as a percentage of the population than here in the United States. Now, don't get too excited though, because there is an issue with what kinds of jobs are these Japanese women taking on. Most of them are part-time, not full-time jobs. And we still have a significant dearth of women in critical leadership positions. For example, maybe 10% of all corporate managers are women in Japan, less than 3% of board directors, and get this, in the Diet, in the parliament, maybe less than 9%. I'm sorry to say, because there's some government people here, that ratio is lower than the ratio in Saudi Arabia and Libya. That is not acceptable. But there is hope, because last August, a tiny revolution occurred, and that is that the Japanese government passed a very important law called Josei Katsuyaku Suishin Hoan, which in English is something like Female Employment Promotion Legislation. What this will require is any large company or public enterprise with more than 300 employees must disclose, get this, gender diversity targets and action plans to reach those goals starting April, 3 months from now. For a country like Japan, you can imagine, many companies are really struggling right now. How are we going to do this? What kind of levels should we target? And we're just talking about, like, by 2020, maybe 20% of our managers will be women, okay? It's going to be transparent, right? So, of course, this is going to take a long time, but to me, transparency will mean greater accountability. And as you know, Japan, everybody's the same, peer pressure, I think will do a lot to finally, move that needle. Finally, I think that Womenomics can also help drive another pillar of Prime Minister Abe's agenda, which is innovation. I know a lot of my female friends have opted out of working for a Japanese company and have decided to work for themselves. I know some of you in this room are involved with this, and I'm very, very excited to see more and more women taking up entrepreneurship. I'm also very excited by the fact that I am meeting every day a very exciting generation called the millennials. And particularly the millennial young Japanese men. Why? Because these young men are looking at the lifestyles that their fathers and their grandfathers had, and they're saying, nope, I don't think so. I want a different life. I want to spend more time with my family. I want more flexibility. I'm being dead honest with you. I get young men coming to work at Goldman Sachs Japan asking me very work-life balance type questions. I used to only get these from women. I'm now getting increasingly from men. So I'm hopeful that these young millennial men are going to help lead the charge in greater diversity. So over the years, I finally have spoken with a lot of very traditional Japanese companies about diversity. And I can tell you, in the 1990s, that word diversity, daibashiti, was not part of the Japanese vocabulary, right? Today, it is firmly a part of the Japan vernacular. Company managers are now talking about daibashiti in a very normal way. And to me, that offers hope. And I strongly believe that with greater diversity, Japan will be able to pursue much more sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth. Thank you very much.
Well, what do you think of your daughter? Pretty good? He said smugly. All right then, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, another round of applause for Kathy Matsui. And now, it's our pleasure to hear from her dad, Mr. Andy Matsui, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your recognition and the honor of the speaking to you tonight. I was born in 1935 into a farm family in Nara Prefecture. I was the eldest son, so I was expected to take over the old farm. But I was curious about a different life. I joined a training program through the Ministry of Agriculture. They sent me to the Bay Area in 1961. That was 55 years ago. After seeing so many possibilities in the United States, I knew my future was in America. So I abandoned my family's farm in Japan and started a brand new life here in California. After a couple of years, I brought over my wife and eldest daughter. My wife and I worked hard, raised our children, and followed our dreams. I knew I wanted to have a large flower nursery of my own. I needed at least 55 acres of land. In the Bay Area, the growth was making land too expensive for flower growers like me. So I spent months driving all around the California coast, looking for the right place to land on my new business. Lucky for me, I found just what I needed in Salinas. I purchased 53 acres of farmland and I created a 10-year plan to cover the land with greenhouses. With the support of bankers of Bank of Tokyo, I was able to complete my 10-year plan right on time. By then, our family had grown to 4 children. My wife and I continued to work in our chrysanthemum nursery. In a few short years, I created a network of our customers throughout the United States. We had high demand for our premium chrysanthemum flowers. In 12 years, we became the largest mum grower, not only in the United States, but in the world. Although we were an excellent chrysanthemum grower, they lost their popularity as cut flower. So I decided to try growing roses. We once again became the leaders. We became the largest rose grower in the country. Our roses even made it to the White House and the Kentucky Derby. We also created a new product with the freeze-dried roses. We enjoyed a great success. We were making plenty of money. For some time, it seems that business was almost too easy. The nursery sometimes felt it a little boring. However, in the mid-1980s, we began to experience multiple challenges. First, in 1984, Matsui Nursery became unionized by the United Farm Workers Union. This made our operation very difficult. For the first time in our history, we lost money. This lasted for the 3 years. But I never gave up hope. I hired a strong manager who helped us remove the union, and we could get back to business. With this victory, I renewed my effort to improving our rose business. But the external pressure made this increasingly difficult. Rose growers in Colombia and Ecuador could grow biggest and better roses than we in the United States. Labor costs in South America were only the fraction of what we had to pay in America. I decided it was too hard for American nurseries to compete against the South American cut flowers. Instead, I looked for the flowers that would not have any overseas competition. This is how I decided to grow potted orchids. I was already past 60 years old, but I wanted to try one more time. Orchid takes time. It could be many years before they are ready to sell. This was 20 years ago in 1996. It was a big risk because I was investing over $20 million in my new orchid venture. I didn't know if I could start over again if my idea was not successful. Fortunately, Palo orchid turned out to be big success for us. In short time, our annual orchid sales were much higher than they ever were with cut flowers. Our profit improved too. I am now 80 years old. Matsui Nursery is almost 50 years old. Here are some of the lessons I learned from my experience. Make your company good place for people to work. Your best asset is your employees. Matsui Nursery is very fortunate that we have many employees who have worked for us for 20 and 30 years. Don't just be a good supplier. Be good customers too. I always look to save money, but I also want to support the local business in our community. Good business deserve to make reasonable profit, so they can remain in a business to serve us for a long time. Support your local community. Even though we operate in the global and high-tech economy, we still have neighbors in the neighborhood, schools, and the local organizations. In addition to being good business people, we need to be good local citizens too. No matter how smart you are or how well you plan, you cannot control everything. You always need at least a little good luck. In addition to good luck, you also need the support of good people. That can be from good banker, or good advisor, or good employee, or a kind of stranger who want to help you. Always express gratitude for the good people and the good luck that have come your way. And in your gratitude, be sure to share your good fortune with others. I thought about how I could share my good fortune with others. Even though my wife and I only finished high school, we wanted our children to have the advantage of a college education. But we didn't know anything about college in the United States. So we left it up to our children to figure out how to apply. One day in 1976, eldest daughter told us she had been accepted to Harvard University. I didn't even know she had applied. I thought Harvard is one of the easiest colleges to get in. When I found out it was such a prestigious college, I told the other three children that if they can graduate from Harvard, they won't have to take over my flower business. Of course, all of my children graduate from Harvard, so I have to grow my orchid until I die. My children was very lucky because I paid all their college expenses. However, there are many bright kids in our community who don't have the financial ability to attend college. So I established the Matsui Foundation in 2004. I wanted my foundation to support students in the Salinas Valley who need financial help to attend the college. I knew if I did not help these deserving students, there would be terrible loss to our community and our future. That first year, I awarded one 4-year, $40,000 scholarship to senior from Gonzalez High School. This is a public high school both of my daughters attend. I kept expanding the scholarship program until we were giving 4-year scholarship to senior from every public high school in Monterey County, plus 2-year scholarship to students transferring from our 2 community college. But I realized less than half of our scholarship students could graduate in 4 years. Also, our students sometimes couldn't find good jobs after graduate from college, especially during the Great Recession. So I felt our scholarship program need big change. I came up with a revolutionary idea. My idea was to reduce the time for college degree from 4 years to 3 years. Students would have to give up their long summer vacation and continue studying. I also wanted them to study a subject that would prepare them for jobs for the future. That's how I decided to focus on the computer science education. I convinced the Hartnell College and the Cal State Monterey Bay to invent a program for students to earn the bachelor's degree in computer science in only 3 years. This program is called CS in 3, Computer Science in 3 years. The first class enrolled in 2013. This May, this first class will complete their 3-year and graduate. My foundation has promised to give scholarship to every student who enroll in the first 4 classes of this program. This is a commitment of more than $4 million a year. The program requires each student have a paid internship. Companies like Salesforce, Over, Cisco, and Allstate Insurance hired some of our first-class students as their interns. Many students already have full-time job offer even before graduation. Some of the jobs pay more than $100,000 a year. These are jobs is what will change the lives of our students and their families. You see the students in the program are low income. Many are the first in their families to attend the college. About 85% of all the students are Latino. 40% of our students are female. No other computer science program has a student body like ours. Even the governor of California recognized the unique achievement of the CS in 3 program. Last year, this program received a $5 million award for innovation in higher education from Jerry Brown's Education Innovation Committee. I thought this was pretty good for the idea created by Japanese immigrants who never went to college. There are many needs in this world, and it is not possible for one person to solve every problem. My scholarship focuses on the local students because the need in my community is great. But we are also affected by the events and the people who live throughout the world. So it is important to reach out to far corners as well. It's a fact that Japanese business are not as committed to philosophy as those in other nations. Of course, the Japanese tax system does not provide tax reduction for charitable contributions. But sharing our good fortune should not be motivated only by the saving on taxes. I would like to see more giving by all Japanese